Been getting a lot of comments from people who are confused about where you can legally fly. Some people think castles are no-fly zones, others think nature reserves are banned, and some maps make it look like half of Scotland is restricted airspace. So today we're going to clear this up. What actually creates a real drone no-fly zone in the UK? In the UK, the organisation that controls airspace is the Civil Aviation Authority, usually called the CAA. Landowners, councils, historic sites and nature reserves do not control the airspace above the land. Landowners control the ground. The CAA controls the sky. The most common drone no-fly zones are around airports. These are called Flight Restriction Zones, or FRZs. An airport flight restriction zone has two main parts. The first part is the aerodrome traffic zone, which is a circular zone with a radius of 5 kilometres. That's approximately 2.7 nautical miles. Inside this zone, you cannot fly a drone without permission from air traffic control or the aerodrome operator. The second part is the runway protection zones. These protect aircraft during takeoff and landing. Each runway has a rectangular protection zone that's 5 kilometres in length from the runway threshold and a 1 kilometre width, which is 500 metres either side of the runway centreline. These extend outward from each runway end. So a runway produces two rectangular zones, one from each end. Runway zones are measured from the runway thresholds. These are the points where aircraft begin landing. Now what this means for you as a drone pilot is that inside any part of the FRZ you must obtain permission from the aerodrome. Without permission, flying is illegal. The regulation that covers this is the Air Navigation Order ANO 2016 Article 94A, which defines the flight restriction zone for aerodromes. Examples: Prestwick Airport, Glasgow Airport, Edinburgh Airport. Airports have protected airspace and drones cannot fly there without permission. Prohibited airspaces. These are sites that have permanent restricted airspace. As you can see here, there are only two truly prohibited places in Scotland. One of them is FRZ, that contains the UK's Trident nuclear deterrent submarines, and that's why it has EGP 611 prohibited area. The other one is Dounreay, which is a former nuclear research and weapons related facility, and that's why it has EGP 813 prohibited area. Hunterston isn't a prohibited area like FRZ, but it is a restricted airspace bubble to protect helicopter operations. That means technically you shouldn't fly a drone into that circle without permission. Restricted airspace. These are labelled R on aviation maps. Now, restricted areas are places where flight may be limited unless you have permission from the controlling authority. Danger areas. Danger areas are one of the most misunderstood things on drone maps. They often appear as a huge red area, especially around the Scottish coastline. But they simply warn of hazardous activity, military flying ranges and aircraft training. Danger areas are not automatically no-fly zones. Many drone apps colour danger areas the same way as restricted airspace, which makes it look like flying is illegal everywhere. In reality, many of these areas are simply warnings. Here's an example of a map that shows danger areas, prohibited areas and restricted areas turned on. And look at the map, it's completely covered in red. It looks like there's almost nowhere to fly. But that's not true, because the danger areas aren't prohibited or restricted, meaning that you can legally fly there. Look what happens to the map when the danger areas are turned off. Now you can see that there is a section in the north of Scotland that is prohibited and restricted. That's because there are military restrictions up there, and also all of the airports are highlighted in red too. but that great big danger area has now been removed. In this video we'll look to airspace rules that actually create no-fly zones. But what about castles, historic sites, nature reserves and private land? In the next video I'll explain why many of those places look restricted but often aren't. Please like and subscribe if this was useful to you, and don't forget to hit the notification bell if you want an alert when the next video in this short series is being uploaded. Cheerio the now.